it's just beautiful. All the colors, all the textures. You can see everything kind of intertwined and working together.
This one goes out to you and yours. Worldwide, I say, hey, I'll be gone today, but I'll be back from around the way. Seems like everywhere I go, the more I see, the less I know. But I know one thing, that I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you.
Hi, it's Teresa and Veronica. We're here with another High Desert Harvest Tour. We're here in Rob's garden. He's been working on his garden for the last 20 years, and so I know we're going to learn some really great things from you. We are pretty newbies here, so we're excited to be here with you.
We're all newbies at gardening.
Right, there's always something to learn.
Always.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you, Rob, and let's check out your garden.
Thank you.
Yes, I know, but I know one thing, that I love you. I love you, I love you, I love you. I've been a lot of
Welcome.
places all
Here it
around
is.
the way. I've seen a lot of
Yeah, it's looking pretty nice this morning with the morning glories. They start coming out about this time of year, and then by September they're crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're just starting. They've just the last few weeks they've been showing up more of the pinks and the purples. I really like them in the morning.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I was telling Veronica, we were here the other night in the evening time, and it looks different even from the morning to the evening. The
Yeah.
flowers, the birds, the insects. I mean, it's just beautiful. All the colors, all the textures. You can see everything kind of intertwined and working together.
It seems like in the morning, it seems like almost everything's awake. And then when we came in the evening, like
Yeah.
everything was kind of like, like going, settling down. And
The yellow flowers here are evening primrose, and those are still kind of left out. I think, like I told you last time, they open right around sunset, and they stay open all night, and then in the morning they start to close up as the heat comes on.
So we caught them just as
So yeah, those. So when you were here last time, they were probably all kind of shriveled and brown, but yeah.
This morning too, we noticed just when we got here, the birds were enjoying them. Tons of birds out there, hummingbirds and different kind of birds.
Yeah, they love it.
Yeah. I know you have a vegetable garden too. You want to
Yep.
take us over there?
Sure.
I know you were saying that you haven't really started this year. You hadn't had the time to get stuff in.
Well, no, I've started, but I usually start early in the spring, and then I've been keeping track the last few years. I worked on this a lot, and then I started a job in 2014, and this garden kind of got neglected for a few years, and then I started it back up about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And in that time, I've been keeping track on just a sheet of graph paper. What I plant, what day I plant, what, and then I watch, and some stuff just never comes up. Other stuff comes up, and the next thing I know, it's all dead because the snails have gotten to it.
Yeah.
And but usually I find that the plantings I've done in June, those are they thrive the most. They just
Okay.
the soil temperature or something. They just start and they grow fast, and it just flourishes.
And you plant from seeds in June.
Yeah, I pretty much always plant from seed.
Nice.
But usually the June plantings do the best. But this year, we were away.
Yeah.
Watering got
Yep.
messed up a little bit,
Yep.
and I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so these actually, Uma just got some stuff. She wanted a little kitchen garden, so I just turned those beds over for her.
Nice.
But she picked me up some eggplants, so I'll plant those from her. But these are some beans, some red and green beans, or purple and green beans, but they're not quite beaning yet. They're just
Yeah.
flowering.
they're getting ready.
Yeah, and some.
What do you why? Because mine is doing this too. From your experience, why do you think they're not fruiting? Because mine aren't fruiting either.
I don't. Honestly, I don't know. My whole approach to gardening over the years has been off and on scientific and organic. So just at times I thought I should take soil temperatures. I should keep daily logs of things. I should And then I just don't have the time to do that. So honestly, I'm not sure. But I mean, they've got plenty of flowers, so they'll be
Yeah.
fruiting real soon.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Like some things like take so much time and care and tend to it, and then something grows on its own that I didn't plant. It's like the best one in the garden.
Yeah. Well, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I mean, gardening is a mixture of like happy surprises and bitter disappointments all the time. Like you fully expect, oh, these did great last year, I can't wait for them, and then nothing. Yeah.
Yes.
True.
You know, and you were telling me too, these beds you built when you first started, right? 20 years ago.
Yeah, so when I first moved in here, my late wife and her friend were actually looking for a house for her friend.
Oh, wow.
And they walked in here, and my wife was like, I want this house. And she saw this back area, and she knew that I loved to garden on our other house, but it was much smaller. And she said, oh, Rob would love this. So this is one of the reasons we bought the house. And when we moved in, there was the pool equipment, the shed, and an almond tree back there. And the rest of this was just, the weeds that had grown up over the years. And so I spent some time just walking around it after work and in the mornings and during the day on weekends, and kind of getting a feel for the microclimates.
Yeah.
And so then I decided I'd plant the vegetables in this area because the pine trees give shade and they block the wind, and the wall blocks the wind. And this would be the most delicate stuff. This was actually this turnaround here, this circular area was like kind of an impromptu vehicle turnaround area that the previous owners had. And so I left it, and I just turned that into like a little circular area. Now it's all a battle of perennials.
Yeah.
But years ago when I had more time and more energy, I used to actually keep that pretty well manicured with just annual flowers. It's always been flowers, but now
And it just goes on its own. You don't plant anything new in there.
No,
it just doesn't.
in the fall it all dies once we get a frost. It all dies back, and I rip everything out, so it's all back to the bare ground. And this is all grown up, since spring.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. So then the next thing I did was, after I figured out that I wanted the vegetables here and flowers there and fruit trees back there, my native garden over there, I planned and designed the irrigation. These vegetable beds, I'd heard we had gophers, so I dug each one down. They're 4 foot by 8 foot. I dug each one down about 1.5 feet, lined it with chicken wire, and then put the wood boards around the outside and stapled the chicken wire to it, and then backfilled it all, and did that one at a time for 14 of them. And
but it's been here for 20 years. It's lasted.
It's been
that
here
gives
20
me hope.
years. I amend the soil every time. Every spring when I plant, I just buy organic mulch and just potting soil and just add it in, some compost and so.
So what else do we have over here?
This is just fennel that's been hanging out here for years now. Well, a few years, 3 I think, and I like it. I like fennel. I don't use a whole lot of it, but I might dig up the roots this year, at least 1 or 2 of them, and just it's kind of overgrown and.
Do you regrow it from the roots?
I cut it back, and again, it'll die off in the die back in the wintertime, but then it comes back in the spring.
Yeah. I had this. I went to visit a garden, and they had this, and I had never seen it before. Now I've seen it a couple times in the grocery store, but it tastes like licorice, right?
Yeah.
It's like but when I think of black licorice, when I was a kid, like black licorice is disgusting.
Yeah.
But this is like a really good, like sweet, what you would imagine you would want black licorice to taste like. It's really good. What do you use it on?
I just like to. It's good for the digestion, I think. So I just like to take pieces of it, or I'll chop it up and put it in a salad. I like to mix all kinds of greens and salads, and so as you're eating, you're getting a little bit of a, you're getting this like sweet taste from this, and then green onions, you get the oniony taste, and arugula, you get that nutty taste.
Yes.
And so it's nice to kind of have just a mixture of everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of my gardening techniques and knowledge I've gotten from reading Neil Weisenberger's column in the AV Press. He's been writing the Desert Gardener column on Saturdays since before I moved over here.
And it's still out there.
He's still doing. He teaches
wow.
over at the college, or used to, and I took a class with him one time.
Nice.
His columns are so informative, and because they're all tailored to high desert gardening.
Yes.
And so he was the one that said, if you get aphids, you can spray them off with a hose, and then you have to like kind of be vigilant about it and stay on top of them.
Yeah.
But if you do it several days in a row, they just disappear.
Yeah. So this is the fennel. We got a couple of flowers here, and you can eat the flower and you can eat the stem, right?
Yeah. The stems get a little tough when they get older.
It's like black licorice flavor for sure, but sweet, like.
Really good.
Feeling my soul.
It's really good. And just knowing
it.
that it has no sugar, right? Like it's
right.
not.
Like it just you can't get any more nutrient dense unless I chew it right on the plant. I have not grown it yet, but I've tried it from other gardeners.
The roots, like you get it in Trader Joe's.
Yes.
It's very delicious.
Yes.
Slice it very, very thin, and then it'll go into like really thin, like paper.
It smells so good. Okay, what else you got? What else you got?
Oh, there's some old lettuces there that need to come out. Those have run their course. They've gone to seed. And then more carrots. Carrots I like to just kind of plant throughout the year, because you can always use carrots, and they do well here, and they grow them commercially up here. Yeah. Carrots and onions, they grow commercially.
So you could grow carrots during the summer here.
That's apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, those
and
are probably.
You just grow seeds? You just grow seeds?
Those are I think are from my June planting.
Okay.
So.
I know germinating them is tricky. Do you just throw extra seed? Do you do anything special to help them stay moist?
Well, so ideally, I've especially now working from home, I come out here when I plant things from seed and it's hot out. I come out throughout the day and just spritz it with water to keep the top moist, because the sun and the wind, when it's 100 degrees out and you put seed in, bigger seeds you plant deeper. Right. So corn, I plant like that deep. Yeah. Peas, but carrots are little grass seeds, and so you
super tiny.
I usually just make a little row with my finger and try to scatter them in there, and then just slightly cover them up. They're only 1/8 of an inch down, 1/4 inch maybe. So if you come out and you just scrape the soil with your hand, and when it's been sunny and windy and 100 degrees, it's dry. It dries so quickly, the top 1/2 inch.
Yes.
So I try to, when I plant from seed, I try for the first couple weeks to come out and keep it moist. Just keep it moist.
Just until they start sprouting.
Until they develop roots, and then now the roots are underneath that top 1/2 inch. They're getting the moisture, and at least that's my theory.
Yeah, well, it worked.
Right.
And these are, I believe these are radishes.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no idea what that guy is, but I think it's possibly a tree. I'm waiting to see, or maybe it could be could be a potato, but I don't think so.
Oh. No. It looks like a tree to me, but it does have potato kind of.
Yeah. I'm just gonna. When things come up that I don't know what they are, I usually just let them grow until I figure it out, and then figure if I want to leave it or not.
Yeah, I know. I've gotten a couple of things like that before. Like, I didn't know this can grow, and then it just grows on its own. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I had a mimosa tree start in that bed, and I transplanted it into a pot because I love mimosa trees, and I used to have one, and it died, and I wanted to. And they grow fast, so I wanted to plant it, but it didn't make it.
Yeah.
So.
Those do sprout. The mimosa trees, they sprout everywhere. I've had a couple of them in my yard. I'm guessing the birds are the ones spreading the seed.
Yeah.
But yeah, they out here they seem to. I see them everywhere, like almost in all the yards. Yeah.
And then what do we got? What do you got back here? I noticed you got a cage here.
Yeah, this had last year it was tomatoes. There's some oregano over there in the corner that's just kind of becoming a ground cover. There's some celery here, left over from last year. But this was all peas. I just tore them all out. They had all, they ran their course. Yeah, one was left over, and I noticed a couple new ones coming up. Those must have just come up from the seeds and fell.
I noticed too in my garden too, during the winter time, things grow much more slowly.
Yeah, so the peas, they're a cold weather crop, and I discovered last year that I planted them in like around October, like right all around the edge here, and they started to come up, and they were about the size of these guys in the middle all winter long.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, and peas can take a frost, so I just let them grow, and then by March, when it started to warm up, they started to get bigger, and pretty soon by April and May, they were all hanging all over these. So so I think I'm going to do that again this year, October planting. I think I'll do that for a lot of the greens like lettuces and spinach and peas again, and maybe some of the other cold weather crops, and knowing that I'm probably not going to get much during the winter, but as soon as it starts to warm up, it'll be flourishing.
Now, celery, that's a cold weather one too.
Celery, that just grows all year round.
Yeah.
And like we were saying, if you have a celery in your refrigerator and it accidentally freezes, it's no good. It just turns to mush. And I just assumed celery couldn't take a frost, but those celeries in that bed there have been in there for 2-3 years now. Yeah. And they reseed themselves. And so new ones keep coming up, but some of those are actually the same plant has been there for a few years.
We were talking about how the seed of almost every vegetable tastes just like the vegetable.
Yeah.
It's like the flower. So like the celery flower that we see here, you taste it tastes just like celery.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know even that if you didn't garden or didn't grow up around a garden, you wouldn't know that all of these things have flowers.
Yeah.
Like first of all, that it has a flower, and then you can eat the flower. Like even broccoli. I didn't know that was a flower.
Right.
And then broccoli will get bigger and create this beautiful yellow flower.
Right. Like, and that's where you find the seed.
Yeah. Carrots too. They have this beautiful white flower.
Queen Anne's lace. That's wild carrots.
Yes. It's so beautiful. You would never know if you didn't do this.
Right.
I mean, there's so much part of the plant you can eat. The roots, the stalks, the leaves, the flowers, the fruits, and all so good.
If you have a hearty digestive system like I do, you just cut it all up no matter what, and put it in a big pot of stew, and it
always tastes better when you grow it too. So
I know.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Here's a bunch of arugula though that came up, I think from my June planting, and a couple leftover onions from last year.
Oh yeah, this is the onion seed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should we try the flower?
Yeah.
Try it.
Yeah, go for it.
Here, there's two. One for you, one for me. Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Just like arugula.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So good.
Cool.
And like arugula is a thing in a restaurant, like the salads, or sometimes you have them on pizzas. But when I first got it from a gardener who's out here, there's a farmer who does a CSA. Wow. I was like, oh, that's what arugula is supposed to taste like. The nutty, the spicy, where it's so bland, like in, on hot dogs, I have a hot dog that I like to get with arugula. You can't taste it.
Oh, really?
But when you grow it yourself, it's got this like beautiful, spicy.
Sometimes it can be kind of overpowering too, because it's such a strong.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
It seems like the flower has some more of the taste. Like it has a stronger taste of the plant.
Yes.
Like you could taste it more.
I do remember I had a bag of arugula, and my husband was like, hey, I'm going to make a salad. He's like, what's this? I said, oh, that's arugula. You don't want to eat all of it in like a whole salad of arugula. He's like, I'll be okay. He got about 3 bites in, and he was like, oh, I get it. Right. I can't finish this. It's so spicy.
Yeah, that's why I like to have a mix, like the radish greens you can cut, and they're kind of bitter and a little spicy too. And so if you mix all those different flavors in a salad as you're eating, you get these little sparks of different.
Or even the carrot leaves too. Sometimes I'll cut those up in there too. What's this? I don't recognize this.
This is chard, just red chard.
I haven't grown this. Okay.
Yeah, so this guy, and these two I think are left over from last year. They were like this big. I cut them all back and let the new greens come out, and I think they're tender enough to eat. And then this is all new. That's also from June. So
this is chard also.
Yeah, chard does so well for me in this garden, and I really like chard. It's a mild green. You know, you can steam it, you can eat it in salad if it's tender enough, and it just grows so well, and it looks. See, this is a beet.
It looks exactly like a beet. I thought it was a beet.
And if you look at the seeds, they look they look the same. They're like these pretty big seed with little spikes on them. And if you put two of them, a beet and a chard, next to each other in my hand, I probably couldn't tell the difference. So.
Yeah.
So they must have been hybridized or something from the same original plant.
Yeah, and then
it's like broccoli and Brussels sprouts and cabbage and cauliflower seeds. They're all these little round black seeds. They all look the same.
Yeah.
So I think they all originally came from the same source.
I did learn too that carrots and dill and celery are the same family. So
right.
I collect seeds, and so I had those together, and I'm like, I wonder if I'm gonna have like a carrot tasting celery. Or
oh, interesting.
We'll see what happens.
You know what I think is also in that family is the filiary. You know, the pink flowers, the wild flowers that grow. They grow low to the ground. I don't know. I've never researched it to find out, but when you pull one out, it smells like carrots.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know that they're native to California, but they're all over the place.
Yeah. They came here somehow.
Yeah.
And you've got corn back here.
Yeah.
The hummingbird too.
And my corn last year it was up here and thick, and the ears were nice and sturdy, but here you can see we've got, when the silk like this dries up, then the ears are ready to harvest. So
that one's ready, huh?
We can try it.
Ooh.
Yeah, but it's so
We'll
small.
see.
I don't even know if it's got any.
We'll see.
Kernels.
It's like a surprise. This is kind of my favorite part of gardening.
Yeah.
The surprise, digging stuff up, opening it.
The nice thing is we don't have to rely on it for our
We're
food.
always starved.
But actually during the recession, there were a couple summers when we ate a lot of vegetables, and we ate almost exclusively out of this garden. I bought potatoes, onions, I don't remember, maybe corn, but otherwise everything else we ate salads, and we ate vegetables 2 or 3 times a day, and it all came out of this garden. Oh, it's not bad.
Oh, look at that. Oh, and look at the color too.
Yeah, this is a blue variety.
Ooh, I love that.
It's okay. It's not, it's not, if you saw it in the store, you'd go, yeah.
I know, isn't that the thing? Like, it's so beautiful when you grow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
But yeah, that's nice.
Why is it that color? Is it just...
Oh, there's different varieties. So there's red. There's all kinds of corn that has been, hybridized over the years for different things, and sometimes on the seed packet, all of it's blue. But this has some yellow, some purple. But there's also like a dark red varieties. There's yellow. There's white.
I've heard that some of them are good for eating fresh, and some of them are good for like drying and grinding as a flour.
For flour, yeah. I've never ground it for flour. I saved a bunch one year because I let them stay on those stalks too long, and so they were already kind of dry. So I said, well, I'll just dry them. I'll grind them up, and I'll use them for flour. But I didn't. But I did use them for seed.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
See, there you go.
Because these are the seeds.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And these are the flowers.
And when did you plant these? When did you put the seeds?
I think some of them volunteered from last year, and then I filled in with new stuff, and I think that was part of the June planting.
For June.
Okay.
Yeah.
June. There you go.
But all this weekend, I think I'm going to do a whole new set of planting. Let's see, what is it? Beginning of August. So maybe by the end of September, October, might have a nice fall harvest.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. Because
Yeah.
a lot of my stuff it's just suffering because of the heat. So I was thinking about the same thing. Start clearing it up and getting ready for fall. I was thinking maybe some broccoli, cabbage.
Yeah. Yep.
And I see that you have some tomatillos.
Yeah, the tomatillos I planted them once, and they just reseed themselves constantly. This whole bed was just full of them, and I don't use them that much. I do like to make my own salsa sometimes, and so I like the tomatillos for that. But other than that, I don't really use them very much.
Yeah.
So
And he has some fruit trees over here.
yeah, so that's the big one there is an apple tree. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of these fruit trees I planted probably about 20 years ago. It was like the first year after we moved in. And frustrating thing is I have squirrels that live in the neighborhood here, and they eat all the apples before they're not even near ripe. And I had apples on that one. A few years ago, there's another little apple over here that's actually a combination of different varieties
Yeah.
on the same rootstock, and it had apples this year for the first time, and I was like, okay, well, you're gonna get those apples. I had a couple slightly underripe ones.
Yeah.
I said, but you won't get these because they just jump from the dead tree.
Yeah.
But no, they got them all. So I have to
squirrely-
do something about those
Big apple
squirrels.
tree.
That is a big apple tree.
I actually bought a trap. Like, I noticed them eating all the fruit last year, and I finally got so mad. I said, I need to do something about these squirrels. So I got a trap, put cat food in it, and every day we'd come out and check to see, and nothing. Weeks went by, and then one day I kind of forgot about it, and I was out doing something else out here, and I kind of glanced over to the trap, and there was a squirrel in it. It was kind of surprised me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, time for, I'm going to take you, I'm moving you 3 miles down the road. Come on, let's go. I got my gloves, I picked up the trap, and as I'm picking up the trap, he's like totally terrified, looking at me, or it could have been female, I'm not sure, but I thought, what if it's a mom,
Yeah.
She's like, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm
She looks
sorry.
so scared. I'm like, the fruit's already gone,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, and I let it out,
Yeah.
and which is probably a mistake because I have it sitting right there. I haven't really set any bait in it yet,
Yeah.
but this year I think I'm gonna firm up my resolve and
Yeah.
move the squirrel. I'm not killing you. I'm just moving you. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And Veronica and I have talked about this too, because a lot of people ask us, like, what do you do about the squirrels or the gophers or the birds? There's so many things that are enjoying our gardens before we get to enjoy them. And so, we've kind of just come to the conclusion that you're going to have to share. There's
Yeah.
going to be a part of your garden that you're going to share. You're not going to get 100% either from, they die or the animals get them. But yeah, we do the best we can to keep them out. But
I'm
sharing.
all for sharing.
yes.
To a degree.
Right.
I have
Yeah.
no problem with sharing
Yeah.
some of the fruit. There's no way I'm eating all the fruit, and
Right.
but the snails are ruthless, and so I in turn am ruthless with the snails. Here, like,
Yes.
there's plenty of snails over in the flower area. There's
Right.
probably thousands,
Yeah.
but it's dry in between there and the vegetables. When I see them in the vegetables, I either pick them off and throw them, or I crush them and kill them.
Yeah.
But I don't want any snails here because they move so slow. But in the night, they can completely devastate your.
I know
your
what you
garden.
could
Damage.
do. You could get a duck.
Actually,
They'll
there's
take care
killer snails you can get to eat
Oh,
these
I
snails.
see.
And
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I researched it a little bit. They say that once they run out of snails, they could then turn on the plants, but I'm not really sure. I haven't tried it, but
Yeah.
it's another option. But again, desert gardener Neil Weisenberger suggested one time, because he talked about the different ways you could put a little container with beer in
I heard
it.
that.
Oh, yeah.
There's these copper strips you can lay down that they don't like to cross. There's salt, but the problem is all that gets affected by the watering. He said, simplest thing is just pick. He said it's kind of gross, but just pick them off with your fingers and get rid of them. You know, so
Yeah. And we do that. We do that a lot too.
We do that a lot.
yeah. So anyway, that's the snails. But yeah, these are the fruit trees. This area of the garden is fruit trees mostly. Other things have volunteered, like the rabbit bush and the blanket flowers. But yeah, apple tree. This right here is a combination, I think, nectarine, peach, and plum.
Oh, I've never seen that.
Yeah, I just learned about these a couple years ago at the Quartz Hill Nursery here. I didn't realize these even existed, but they're different fruiting trees all grafted onto the same rootstock. And I thought, well, that's a great idea for fruit trees because you can never eat all the fruit, and I don't have the time to can or dry them, so why not have a whole variety? But so, and I had a couple of peaches were coming out, and my friends the squirrels. So that's
got
why they're
to enjoy
moving
them.
this year.
You're evicting them.
So from this point on, you're moving out of your garden
We're
into your
out of the
more-
vegetable garden into the fruit trees for now. The far one was an apricot that did really well this year.
Yeah, my
This is a
apricots
plum
are really
tree.
good,
It's the fruit is just starting to get
That's
a
a
little
plum
ripe.
tree. Wow, look at those plums.
Yeah.
Those are big.
Yeah,
They've
they
been
are.
they've been green for a long time, and they're just starting to get ripe. Next couple of weeks.
Veronica and I were experiencing that too, that a lot of our fruits had trouble ripening once it got into the hundreds. They
Oh,
looked like they
really?
were ready, or they should have been ready, but they just kind of stayed at that
Maybe that's
green
what it's been.
stage.
Yeah, I didn't think of that, but that could very well be why. Yeah.
Do you do anything special to prune them, or you just kind
I-
of cut the branches as you see?
I do prune them again. I have a clipping from Neil Weisenberger's column about how to prune your fruit trees, and he went into all the different kinds, the stone fruits that grow around here, and he says, this kind you need to take off a third of the new growth. This kind doesn't really need much. This kind, all you have to do is cut off the crossing branches and the dead branches of the disease. So I reread that every year, and then I come out here and try to apply it. And honestly, I don't know how good a pruner I am, because it seems like I don't know if I'm really having an effect, but I try to do it every year. The plum doesn't need much, according, I think, from what I've read in his column. You just need to get rid of the dead and dying branches, and try to the other thing I think with fruit trees, he says, is to let light into the tree. So you want to make sure that it's
Yes.
not too the foliage isn't too dense, I guess.
Yeah, yours looks nice and spaced out. I didn't prune mine for the first couple years, and it got really dense in the middle.
Yeah.
And then just this year, I started hacking off, just ruthless hacking stuff away. And I was nervous it would die, but it actually did pretty well. It fruited really well. My plums, remember you tried some of them?
Yeah, he says that like the end of January around here is the best time to prune your fruit trees.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too. January,
Before
Yeah.
spring, right?
before spring.
And if you want to plant a tree or a bush or something like that, the best time is in the fall when the nights are cool but the earth is still warm, because it encourages the root growth, and the cold air discourages the leaves from growing, so you get the roots going and you get a good
Yes.
foundation.
Yeah.
The wild sunflowers that just grow around the Antelope Valley, I found seeds and planted them, and so they just keep reseeding themselves. I
Yeah.
love them. They just get crazy high.
So I'm like on record 5'6", but probably like 5'4". So these are super tall. 10 feet maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I love them. They're just so fun. They
Yeah.
just get big and crazy.
Yeah.
So
Don't tell the
so
squirrels
that's
about it.
that's the fruit tree area. This was a live almond when we moved in here. It was actually the best one on the property
Yeah.
for a long time, but it's been dead for a few years now. But it used to be nice when I'd work out here. This was my place to come sit and rest, and this would be all shaded. And
Yeah.
but now it's like the Matilia poppies are just taking over.
And this is a native plant too. You have quite a bunch of natives too around here.
Yeah, so that was the part of the original planning of the garden. Is I wanted to get into native plants. I wanted to learn more about them, and so I just decided to devote this area to just California native and desert native plants. So some of them they're not native to California, but they are desert native plants.
Right. I love that you collect seeds too, because I feel like everywhere I go with my family, I'm in looking at every tree and touching it. I want to know its name. And I just am so into all the nature, and I love seed collecting too. So I love that you also do that.
Yeah, well, you say that. That's interesting, because I noticed, we're from, my wife and I were from back east, and back there, I had a pretty good knowledge of the wild plants. I lived upstate New York for a while in a cabin with my friend, and we learned, we had a book about wild edibles, and
Yes.
we ate a lot of wild food, and I learned, so then when I moved out here, it was completely different.
Yeah.
I felt so out of place. And then I worked up at Edwards Air Force Base for a few weeks. They were doing a big environmental study, and I worked daily with this, he was a botanist and a wildlife biologist.
Yeah.
And it was great. I got to spend all day
Yes.
with him just walking around, and I would ask him questions, and he would explain and how the ecosystem works and how this, and
Yeah.
I started to feel so much more comfortable.
Yes.
And so I noticed that same thing when I go someplace new. I get out of the car and I'll look at the side of the road at the weeds, or at the, I start looking all around.
Yes.
And, oh, this guy's a little different. What's
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know what any of it is, but
I just love that. My family thinks I'm a little crazy, but I'm like, yes, this is not a crazy thing. We just love it.
I feel it makes me feel more of a connection to where I am. If
Yes.
I can recognize the plants and I don't
Yes.
know, just see how they do what they do in their
Yeah.
own home environment.
I love it. I love it.
So this is our pet cemetery.
Oh yeah.
This is the aforementioned Gilligan. That's Phoebe, Patches the rabbit. That one, who was that one now? Am I forgetting? Oh, Chortles. She was only with us for a little while. This is Otis, that raised my boys.
Yeah.
And this is Ginger. She just passed away a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to cut all this back just the other day because you see the Matilia poppies, they just take over.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they are so easy to cut. I could probably cut that whole thing down in 15 minutes with a machete.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. And the flower is beautiful.
Oh, the
it's
flowers are gorgeous.
It's like big as my hand.
Uh-huh.
And they call it the fried egg flower, right? It's like
Yep.
it's beautiful white petals with this huge yellow center.
Bright yellow center.
So
yeah, it looks
beautiful.
just like a fried egg.
Mhm.
It's so pretty.
When does it usually bloom?
June.
June.
Yeah, late May, early June. I got a lot of this stuff from Theodore Payne down
Yeah.
in Sunland. It's a nursery dedicated to California native plants. So a lot of these came from that. The creosote, the Matilia poppy, not the cactus. This I brought from my east side house, and this I found laying on the side of the road over there. Somebody had trimmed it and threw it on the side of the road. I just stuck it in the ground and it grew.
Yeah.
This antelope bush here, that's from Theodore Payne. I think the agaves are from Theodore Payne.
That's somewhere I think we need to go visit. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would love to
This
take
is
a field
white
trip.
sage. Now careful here because of the cactus, it's sneaky, but this is white sage. And
yeah.
that I also got. No, that I planted. My wife used to work at the whole weedery, and a guy came in, a Native American guy had brought seeds, and he called it grandfather white sage, and he gave it to her.
I love that.
Is that
And
the one right there? Is that
This-
the white sage? The one
Oh
back there?
yeah, the leaf.
No?
No.
No?
Oh yeah, right there.
Okay.
That's
Right
it.
here.
Yeah, that's white sage. Yep. And that's like a really smoky, rich sage.
And this, do you think it's the seed you might?
Yeah, this was the flowers. They're like this beautiful purple, like pale purple flower, but now they're all gone, and the seeds look like they've probably fallen out. They were, as I remember, they were a pretty good sized seed, maybe the size of. They were like round, but like size of an apple seed, only shaped differently.
Yeah.
This
Smells so good.
This stuff here is called cattle spinach, and this is four-wing saltbush.
And you
Salt-
planted those ones?
Yeah, I also got them from Theodore Payne. They're native to the Mojave. Since I planted them back here, I've seen
Yeah.
them as I'm out and around the desert. This is one of my the Joshua trees that I planted from my neighbor's tree. I found a seed pod on the road one year, and I picked it up and decided to plant them and see what happened. And I got, I think, 7 total, but I had them all in one group, so I moved them, I distributed them around. I think I've got 3 now. This is the smallest, and they're all about 18 years old or so. But I have one over there and one over here that are maybe that big.
Yeah.
Can we just real quick kind of tell the people either they grow really slow or something?
It's funny. They're all the same age, and this one is like a third or a quarter the size of the other two. So I don't know. I mean, I think they're a slow-growing plant in general, but 20 years. We can look at this one over here. So if this one is, I think, about 18 years old, so that's that's pretty good.
So they were all planted at the same time.
They're all planted at the same time, and I have another one underneath the apricot tree that's a little shorter than this, maybe about this tall. They're all planted at the same time, so they've all grown differently. Must have something to do with the exact location, the soil, how hot it gets, how much water it gets, how much but they've all been growing the same length of time.
And now I'm wondering though, the ones that we see on the side of the roads that are 20 feet high, those are probably 100 years old.
Hundreds. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of them are hundreds of years old. And we see the creosote bush over there with the yellow flowers and the white puffy flowers. There's supposedly a creosote bush out in way east of here in Johnson Valley called that's supposedly about 11,000 years old.
Wow.
It's like twice as old as the bristlecone pine trees.
Wow.
And when I was working at Edwards with a botanist, I asked him, what does an 11,000-year-old creosote bush looks like? And he said, well, I think they grow in rings. And so it looks like a big bush that's just a ring, but it's actually in the middle is where it started, and then it spreads out. So up at Edwards, in the northwest area, I've never been able to get back there, but I remember coming across some creosote bushes that looked just like that, so I wonder how old they are. And in that same area, there were Joshua trees that were beautiful, giant Joshua trees. So that area, the thing about Edwards is when I was working up there, they fenced that whole area off in the World War II, so for the last 80 years it's been a nature preserve mostly. So it's pretty cool. We might as well continue this way, I guess. Another agave. This gets some nice orange flowers.
Beautiful.
And this is a western redbud. This is the backside of the cattle spinach and the salt bush, and this is coyote bush.
And then you have mentioned that a lot of this stuff you don't water anymore.
I don't water anything. Well, I take that back. If I plant something new, which I've done the last couple of years, I'll water it usually at first, maybe twice a week. Then I'll start cutting it back in. And then once it cools off, I just stop watering or water it very intermittently. And maybe the next summer I'll water it once a week. But eventually I just stop watering completely. And so none of this, I haven't watered any of this at all this year. When we had the bad drought years, I noticed some of it starting to look pretty sad looking. So I did it once, I think 2 or 3 times one summer. I just let the hose run at the base for a while, and it perked them back up for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I'm just curious to see how plants would do in an environment where it's 110 degrees for months and no rain.
Yeah.
And they just, they thrive. Look at this thing. Careful walking under this guy.
Oh yeah, this is one of your sculptures. It's even better from the other side.
Yeah,
Here, take
they're
my
all
picture.
in a little bit of disrepair. Yeah, I try to fix them up as best I can for a while, and then they just eventually get too bad, and then they just become part of the the path lining.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we just come back through here. Let's see, there's the other Joshua tree I was telling you about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the other Joshua. So that's about the same size as that one over there, but yeah. Oh, and this is a dwarf nectarine. There's some years it gets really covered. This year it's not such a good year, but they don't usually start becoming ripe until like September, I think. But then they're ripe I come out here every morning for like a month and pick 3 or 4 of them off and put them in my yogurt.
Okay, so do you have less problems with this one with the squirrels?
Yeah, they didn't bother it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why.
I wonder just location, like you were saying, they love those big trees. They come from those trees, and then maybe just being further away.
They haven't seen them yet.
Could be, yeah. Maybe they don't know it's here.
Yeah.
They're full by the time they're done eating the
Right.
apples.
Yeah, right. Like, oh, we're good for we're good till Christmas.
I got it.
This is the aforementioned creosote.
So
I love
beautiful.
the smell of it.
Oh yeah, it's like fresh.
It's so fresh.
Little
Like when I'm walking in, the first time I ever knew what these smelled like, I was walking in the desert, and I was like, it smells like water.
Yeah, like water, like water. Like I'm thirsty now.
Yeah. And this is more desert native stuff. This is called Fremont boxthorn, I believe, and more rabbit bush that just grew. More rabbit bush.
Oh, and then this beautiful tree too. That's
The Palo Verde tree. It's
Palo Verde, yeah.
It's native to Arizona.
Yeah.
It's like southern Arizona. Mm-hmm. And I never thought it would get this big when I planted it, because the ones I'd seen in Arizona were, I don't know, they were much smaller, didn't have as much in the way of trunk and limbs. But maybe that's because they're growing in southern Arizona and there's just no water. But, bless you.
Bless me. Thank you.
But yeah, it's real pretty, and it provides so much shade nowadays. Didn't used to when I first planted it.
Yeah. It's so much cooler even just being this close to the
Right.
plant.
Really? Yeah, you feel that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So much
Yeah.
cooler. Danny's right under there.
Well, that's another thing I've noticed a long time ago. In the summertime, in the evenings, if I come walking up that concrete driveway, as soon as I step into the garden, it feels like 5 or 10 degrees
Oh
cooler.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, this rabbit bush here. I really like rabbit bush. I don't know. Do you know what it just grows all over the place? in
I
the
have
desert.
some.
Do you? Yeah.
It's kind of like lined my fence. Like
Oh,
in
okay. And in the fall and October, it gets those yellow flowers, and at
Yes.
first it smells like honey,
Yes.
and then it starts to smell kind of bad after a while. Yeah, but I like it. It's a kind of a funky, raggedy looking bush, but I like it for those flowers. And actually, the Palo Verde had a dove nesting in it maybe a month ago. I didn't even notice it.
Oh, look right here, Danny. If you come on this way,
Are those
so
so
beautiful. No, those
Oh
are
yeah,
not.
those look like maybe goldfinches.
So pretty.
Yeah, in the fall, the goldfinches like to come here, and they the sunflowers. The heads of the sunflowers are all dyed, and the seeds are inside, and you'll see them like perch on top, and they'll reach underneath
pick
and
it.
pluck the seeds out. Yeah, and the whole thing will, depending on how many sunflowers I have, they'll just be like two or three dozen birds will walk back out here, and they all like take off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, this center area is like I said, it's the battleground of the perennials. I forget what this is called. This gets a real pretty white flower. Not that. This. Nope, not that either. That's purslane.
Do you
Oh,
guys
it's over
eat your
here.
purslane?
I don't usually,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know it's
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 edible?
tasty. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I just don't I don't know why I don't use
Yeah.
it. But
What,
yeah.
what are these?
That's the evening primrose. That's going to be this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Oh, yeah. I could see the flowers at the leaves at the base of it.
Yeah, and they're so fun. I was telling you last time how in the evening, like these guys that are closed up now, the sun goes down, and then they start to open. You can actually watch them open. You can watch. They'll
That's part of the
pop
name,
open.
right? Evening primrose.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
this never connected.
Yeah. I never did either. I always
Yeah.
heard evening primrose,
Yeah.
and then when I learned that that's what they do, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
They bloom in the evening. Yeah.
I think about this too because I know, like you were talking about, there's times where it's really hard to get out in the vegetable garden, and because every year or every season, right, a couple times a year, you have to plant seeds, you have to water it, you have to weed, and you really kind of have to take care of it. But when you have perennials, you could just kind of let them fight it out.
You know what that
Yeah.
and that's what I ended up doing. At first, I was kind of struggling with that because I was like, it looks so messy, and then I realized, well, if I keep the pathways neat
Yep.
and trimmed up and just let that go wild, and most of what grows in there is, things that I would like to grow, like the evening primrose. There's a pink primrose. Well, you can see them there, close to the ground. And then there's the sweet peas and morning glories. And this is a bush called rue. I'm not sure. It's a medicinal thing. My wife, you know about it.
Yeah?
I know if you take some and eat it raw, you'll get a bad stomach ache.
My mom used to use it for earaches.
Okay,
So-
yeah.
How would she use it? What would she do?
She would rub. I think she would make it into put it in a cotton ball kind of, and
Okay.
then just put alcohol in it, and then put it in our ears for earaches.
You make it like a tincture or something. Let it soak in the alcohol.
Yes,
Okay. And then this little plot that is way overgrown. This one I do. I don't want to. This one I do try to keep tended better, and this is like my next project is to get this back under control. But this little area dedicated to my late wife a few years ago. She used to use the phrase "sweet little." Like she used to always say, "Oh, isn't that a sweet little?" So I called this Sherry's sweet little garden.
I love that.
It's embarrassingly out of control right now, but she loved blue.
beautiful.
Blue was her favorite color, so
Yeah.
I try to keep lots of colors in here with the annuals and.
I love it. The poppies, a couple poppies in there.
Yeah. This is society garlic. You can see it's buried underneath here, but
Yeah.
there's the flowers and what else is in here? A lot of morning glories, the blanket flower.
I'm gonna see a massive spider.
Sure.
Ooh.
Oh, cool.
Look at the web.
Yeah.
Neat.
So I want to, before we finish, I do want to ask you one question, because I always think, somebody had told me a couple years ago, like, do things today that in 20 years yourself will thank you for. So you've had this garden for quite a while. What would you tell somebody who's starting a garden? Like, what were you thankful that you did 20 years ago when you started? Or
Well, for me, the main thing was, and I learned from my initial experience on the east side, because we had a house on the east side, and my first time living in the desert, I didn't know anything about gardening here, so I made a lot of mistakes in there. The best thing I did when I moved in here was plan. and that's the first. So when we first moved here, like I said, this was all weeds, and I just would walk out here different times of day and night. I would get a feel for how strong is the wind, I noticed there's shade here, and then I planned the garden around the microclimates, and then once I figured out what I wanted where, then I planned the irrigation, and I put the irrigation in first thing. At my other house, I did it all backwards. I started planting things, and then realized I have to go around with a hose and water it all. And now, if I want to put irrigation in, I'm going to kill everything.
Yes.
So I planned it out, and then have pretty much stuck to that plan, and I've been happy with it. It worked. The vegetables are in a good spot. They're more or less protected from the wind, and they're protected from the worst of the sun by those pine trees.
Yeah.
And that's what really needs the protection the most. The fruit trees, they're okay. They can take a little wind, and the native stuff, that's in the harshest part of the garden, because it's just full sun all day.
Yeah.
I'd say that's the thing that I'm really glad for, that I had to force myself too, because trust me, I wanted to get out here and start planting.
Yes.
But I was like, nope. I'll be happy if I do this right. So
I've even heard too some gardeners say spend 1 year on your property, because then you'll get to see all the seasons. Like
Right.
you mentioned the wind. Where's the wind coming from? Where's the sun coming from? And then even the water, right? Like, where's the water going when it rains?
Right.
And all that stuff. So
yeah,
Okay.
that's good advice too.
Yeah.
I didn't do that.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
we
But
moved
still
in
planning.
Yeah, we moved in April, and I started the vegetable beds in the late summer,
Yeah.
and then I wasn't planning on planting anything that first year, but then I just got so into. I'd come home on my lunch break and dig those things.
Well, my mama told me don't lose you, 'cause the best luck I had was you. And I know one thing, that I love you. I said, hey.
Well, Rob, thank you for letting us come through your garden.
Oh, of course, thank you.
Yeah, it was a great time. I had a great time learning. I love the stories that you're telling, and all the meaning behind each of your plants and your garden. I've learned so much about you know, how to do things, and you know what I might be looking forward to the next 20 years.
Well, thank you for doing this. It's been really fun for me to share this, because usually I'm out here by myself, just working. I love it out here. It's my little sanctuary, but it's nice to be able to share it with people who obviously like love gardening and get it.
Yes, and get it.
Because I show it to so many people that come, you know, guests come over and I walk them around. They're all, you know, they feign interest, but you know, it's kind of hot and they want to get back inside. You know.
Well, thank you. And if you ever want to invite us back, you know, for a different season or whatever, we'd love to come back.
Yeah,
so.
I'll keep that in mind and I'll keep an eye on things and say, oh, you know, Teresa would like to see that.
Yeah. And thank you guys for joining us on our tour, and we'll have many more tours to come.
Yes.
So, thank you.
It seems like everywhere